So here's the situation. You just finished your first granny square. You followed the pattern to a T. It looks like a granny square. But now you're wrapped up in your blanket on the couch and you're noticing that your fingers and your toes are getting stuck in the holes. There's a wrong side and a back side, and if you're not wrapped up the right way, it bothers you because the wrong side shouldn't be facing out. And then the turning chains are leaving this weird gap, especially over time as the fibers get stretched out more. So how do you fix that? This video is to show you how you can fix those problems by making some minor adjustments to your granny square. Most of these tips are related to decreasing the size of the gaps within the granny square. The first one you have control over is the size of the circle in the very center of your granny square. So instead of chaining 5 to create the ring, you can chain 4 to create a smaller ring, or you can chain 3 and work all of your double crochets into that very first chain. Now this one's going to be a little difficult, but if your chains are loose enough, that can work. The other tip is to use a magic loop or adjustable loop and completely get rid of that ring in the center. The next tip is at the beginning of your row. Instead of chaining 3 for your first double crochet, you can chain 2, and then instead of slip stitching on top of the chain 3, you can slip stitch on top of the second stitch right there. And then that way that'll get rid of the gap a little bit. And then instead of slip stitching to that first corner, I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and then that is what was my 4th corner, but is now going to be my first corner of round 2. So I'm going to work 2 more double crochet, and then instead of chaining 2 for the corner, I'm going to chain 1 and work 3 more double crochet into that space. Once I finish my last double crochet, I am not going to chain 1 and work directly into the next gap. So 3 double crochet, 1 chain, 3 more double crochet will be the corner. By eliminating some of the chains, I'm making less space in the gaps, and since I'm not adjusting the number of stitches into those gaps, it'll make the gap slightly smaller. And then by turning my work, I'm doing 2 things. First, I'm eliminating the right side, wrong side, because after a while you'd have to look very closely to figure out what the right side is, and even then it's debatable. And then, because I'm alternating directions, I'm offsetting the curling process that can sometimes happen, and the granny square itself will end up flatter. Everything else I'm going to keep the same here. It's still going to be clusters of 3 double crochet and 1 chain in the corner, but I'm not doing chains in between anymore, and I'm not slip stitching to the corners. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, but these are just a couple tips to make your granny square even better.